is my 5.5 kilo Hillclimb bike actually any faster than my modern 8.5 kilo disc brake titanium race bike? So in order to compare these two awesome bikes, I'm going to be taking them up a local hill climb. I'm going to do 3 runs per bike, and the run should take around 3 minutes. And I'm going to compare the two bikes to see which one is faster, and if my super light 5.5 kilo hill climb bike actually gets me up there any faster, or if my modern disc brake bike can hold its own with its wider tubeless tyres that should be more efficient. In terms of their exact specs then, my BMC hill climb bike's running 1x Ultegra Di2 R8000. It's got elite wheels, carbon wheels on, which I got really cheap off AliExpress. On the back I've got a 25mm GP5000, which is the only tyre I have that actually fits between the seat stays. And on the front I've got a 28mm Maxxis High Road SL. This is my modern race bike. It is a Ribble Endurance TI. Even though it's called an endurance bike, it's got a very racing oriented geometry. Really quite a low stack for the size of the frame and my height. I'm running Zip 303 Firecrest with a 30mm Vittoria Corsa NXT on the front and a 30mm P0 Race TLR on the back. The reason I've not got P0s on both front and rear is I blew up one of them hitting a pothole last week. It's running full Dura-Ace 12-speed Di2, and I will be putting on both bikes these Favero power meter pedals so I can ensure the test is fair. How I'm going to do the test is I'm going to do 3 runs of a local climb on each bike. Going to do it back to back so I can just come home, change bikes, do the second lot of 3 runs, and I'll be recording all the power data on my Favero Aciomas, as they are pretty much as reliable as it gets, and I want to keep it as fair as possible. I'm going to aim to do the runs at around 300 watts, as I know that's a comfortable pacing for myself, so I should be able to keep it consistent, whilst the speed still should be fairly high, keeping it as race accurate as I can. If I was to do it with an all-out race effort, firstly, there's no way I could do that 6 times to get enough data, and secondly, my power is going to be very inconsistent. So by keeping them wattages fairly low at 300 watts, I can ensure it's bang on each time. So let's kit up and get on with the test. Oh, I don't ride this bike often, but when I do, it's such a treat. Rep 1 done. I'm already gonna have to make a bit of a change to the test. Turns out, yeah, 300 watts is way too low even for this gearing on this bike. So I'm doing 330 instead. Right, well that's 4 runs done. I've decided to do 4 rather than 3, just to give me a little bit more data so I can be a bit more confident in my results. Keeping bang on the same power was quite difficult, so there is a couple of seconds in it and a few watts, but only 2 or 3 watts between every run. So I'm pretty happy with that. Right, back home, changing bikes and back out up the climb. Right, it's bike number 2 time. I'm on my Ribble. Blooming heck, it is a lot nicer stopping with disc brakes. Forgot how horrible carbon rim brakes were. Right, that's 2 out of 4 runs done on the heavy bike, and I tell you what, I am really glad of the disc brakes on such a potholy descent. Forgot how much of a difference it makes. That actually had a bit of a punch towards the end of it, trying to ride at 330 that many times. Well, that's a 4th rep on the Ribble done, and that is the test complete. Now to go back home and analyse the results. On that final run, my power was slightly too high, resulting in it being in about a second faster than it should have been. Right, let's get home and analyse the results back on the computer. Right, I'm back home now, on the computer, got the file uploaded onto Strava, and I'm looking through the laps. I've gone and got all the times and all the powers and thrown it into a spreadsheet. So for both the bikes, I've taken all their times in seconds and their average power for each run, and then I've calculated the overall mean for both the power and the time for both bikes. So from this, you can see, to start with, my power was incredibly consistent. The difference between the two bikes was only 0.25 of a watt on average across all the runs. However, you can see there is quite a vast difference in time. There was a 4.75 second difference in both the bikes' mean times, which I think is really significant. Jumping onto Best Bike Split, which is a really good tool for analysing performance and predicting pacing for time trials and hill climbs, I'm going to simulate trying to get that same time saving of just shy of 5 seconds, but purely from a power gain perspective. So I've set the average power to 335 watts, which is what I actually did. Now this is predicting I'd do 242, but I think Best Bike Split sometimes gives you a more ideal scenario than actual reality. I'm just going to increase the power slider until I hit 5 seconds, which I'm rounding the difference up to. And you can see there, to get that time saving, I would have to do an extra 13 watts, increasing my average power to 348 watts across this course. Now that could be the difference between me succeeding and me completely blowing up in a race, especially if I'm redlining it. Let's say I was actually riding at 420 watts, having to increase by 4% on that. That's going to be over 440 watts, which suddenly goes from, yeah, I can do it, to that's pushing it and might be unsustainable. I also wanted to check, just to sanity check my results, to see how much time saved Best Bike Split reckons knocking 3 kilos off my system weight would be. So I can decrease the weight slider. I'm going to drop that down to 64 kilos, or I can only go in 0.5 kilo increments. So to 64.3, it would save me 4 seconds, and 63.8 would save me 5 seconds. So a 2.7 or a 3.2 kilo difference would save you 4 or 5 seconds. So that is pretty much perfectly in line with what I experienced. Now, to show this wasn't just run-to-run variance, you can do what's called a hypothesis test. Now, this is really nerdy statistics stuff. I've done what's called an independent t-test, which basically compares the mean and variance of two sets of data to see whether the difference is likely to be caused by just random variance in your results, or whether that difference would be explained by some inherent difference in two groups. Running the t-test on this, I got a percentage chance of this being natural of 0.02%. And using the sort of standard 5% significance threshold, we are way below that. So I'd be very confident saying that this difference is down to some performance difference in the two bikes. Now, I couldn't prove that is for definite just on weight. You know, they are a different position. They've got different geometries, different tyres. But I am pretty confident in saying that's quite likely what the difference is. Do you think, though, that a 4 to 5 second difference was worth all that effort, me building up that bike behind me? Now, coming from my perspective as a hill climb racer, I think that is hugely significant. Most of the races I'm targeting are more in the 5-6 minute length. And, you know, if we scale up and assume that the same trend is going to happen for the second half of the race, well, we're looking at nearly a 10-second difference. I've lost races by 6-7 seconds in the past. So that is hugely significant, especially as, you know, how much I would have to increase my power to gain that sort of time purely by pushing more watts. Also, the course I used was only 8.5% average gradient. Now, a lot of hill climbs I'm doing have got way higher average gradients, and I would assume that on a steeper climb, my lightweight hill climb bike would have an even greater advantage. So when I was building up the BMC, I was quite worried that by going for all these really ultra lightweight components, like the skinny tyres, running tubes rather than tubeless, running my sketchy AliExpress drivetrain that weighs next to nothing, I was going to actually compromise its overall system efficiency. Whilst I can't for definite say the time saving is purely down to its weight loss, I can say that the overall system efficiency when climbing on a fairly steep course is better on the BMC. Now, if I was to run this against, you know, a decked out Tour de France spec aero race bike that's down at, I don't know, 7.5 kilos, the difference might not be significant anymore, but I don't have 12 grand to spend on one of them, so that's not happening anytime soon. Right, I need to wrap up this video because I've got a flight to catch out to Mallorca. So if you're interested in more tests like this, some more Hillclimb performances and bike part reviews and builds, get yourself subscribed down below and I will see you in the next one.